Go.
Hi, this is Erin, and I'm here with Miss Alicia Raby, and she teaches kindergarten at Granite Falls Elementary School. First grade at Granite Falls Elementary School. And she's going to answer some questions to us in reference between math and technology. Our question number one is, what is the purpose of teaching math to students?
Well, the purpose of teaching math to students is so that students have the life skills that they need to do in first grade. Basic skills such as computing, such as certain geometry skills, identifying plane shapes, solid shapes, how they relate to their environment. They're learning patterns, how to recognize patterns in the environment, recognizing patterns in numbers, tens and ones, and just really a whole variety of math skills that they're learning in first grade that they'll build upon with each coming year.
Yeah. So the things that they're learning in your first grade classroom are kind of laying that foundation for what will happen
Exactly.
next.
Those are the building blocks for what's coming up next year.
Yeah. So in your teaching experience, have you observed your students, their learning styles changing over the years?
Well, I feel like that with first graders. They've always been hands-on. They, of course, love manipulatives. I see an increase in the use of technology among students. They're much more skillful in using technology. Also, I see that their attention spans possibly are getting a little more acclimated toward that, so they're not as complacent, or not as apt to sit at a desk and do seat work, whereas maybe used to they will do a little bit more of that. They like to have the animation, and they like to actually be manipulating manipulatives. So.
I'm going to deviate a little bit. You talked about using manipulatives and kind of shying away from seat work. What kinds of things can you do in the first grade classroom that get the kids out of their seat and still help them learn math?
We have a number of math games that we use. Almost every math unit that we do involves some type of game that gets them out of their seats, working collaboratively with groups and with partners. In the floor, they're working with various types of manipulatives, and also games that they think are just for fun, but they're also learning a skill with each one. So.
Do you think we could get some ideas from you for some games after the video?
Sure, yes.
Okay. All right, and so do you want to tell us about problem-based instruction in your math class?
Problem-based instruction, I think, leads right into our delicious questions, which we have been, in our county, has been a big focus. Starting a lesson with the question, having the children to kind of come up with the solutions on their own, and we serve as facilitator more than just an instructor. An example of question that we might say is, in my hand I have an object that's able to roll. What might it be? You know, they have to use some deductive reasoning. Well, it could be a cone, it could be a sphere, it could be a cylinder. So those types of questions are ones that we use often. Another question might be, when each of the children in the class got a partner, there was one left over, how many children might there be in the class? So they have to come up with numbers, decide if those numbers are odd or even.
And so it sounds like all your delicious questions use like real life scenarios that the students could relate to, and like real life problems they could solve.
Yes.
That's neat. So along the lines of delicious and games, are there any types of technology that you use in the classroom?
We use technology daily. The Pearson Success Net is what we use in our classroom and what our county's adopted. Each lesson begins with, it's a computer generated, just an opener for each lesson. It doesn't take the place of the teacher, but it does give a brief overview of what they're going to be doing each day. And it's animated. What they see on the screen is identical to what they're going to see on their paper whenever they're ready to do their lesson for the day. As we work through the unit, of course each day we have the interactive lesson, and then at the end what we do is we have a quiz show that the children are able to answer questions as if they're on a game show, and it has all the bells and whistles of an actual game show, and it keeps up with their points. That we usually play girls against boys, and it reviews everything that's in our topic, and then we'll we'll do our test when we're at the end of that, but they also have access to the math textbook at home, and I'm able to set up, if I want to set up quizzes for, they can be geared toward particular students or for the whole class. I can design tests and assign those for homework, so they can go in at home, type in their password, they can get into the quizzes that are set up there for them, or they can also, if they're absent one day, they have access to their textbook at home.
So they're even using that math technology in their own homes.
Right.
That's neat. That's very neat. Oh, I had one more question about that. The introduction that you were talking about, is that something that all the students sit at a computer and do, or is that something that you
No.
do as the leader up at the front?
Right. They are all looking at the same screen. This is not something that they're doing at the computer itself now.
Okay. So our final question for today is, can you just describe one day in your math classroom?
Well, we start off the day with the interactive guide, and then from there we move on to some guided practice, and I'll have one student who comes up and we talk about the beginning of the lesson and do a few problems together, and then they work on their independent practice. They work at their seats as I come around. Of course, at the beginning of the lesson, a lot of times there is a game, some type of a game that's more engaging than just sitting and watching and doing their independent practice and their guided practice. And then each day there are some problem-solving skills that go along with the lesson too that are a little bit more advanced. They have to think a little bit more critically to solve those types of problems. And then it normally ends with some kind of journaling, some kind of question in which they have to write out, and it's coming from their own ideas of how to apply the objectives that we've just worked on.
So from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, do you think the students have a pretty good idea about what their progress is, or is there a way that do you have like a portfolio, or do you hand back work, or how do the kids kind of see in their own mind's eye what their progress is?
Okay, well, there are various ways. We do assess quarterly, and we keep up with those in a math portfolio that they have that goes on with them through 3rd grade that tracks their progress from kindergarten up to 3rd whenever they hit a tested grade. They also there's some games on the computer that they do, such as Math Facts in a Flash, which tracks their progress for them. So, and it does seem a little bit challenging to them, more like a game to reinforce the speed in which they can compute mainly. Those are not problem-solving skills really, but just how quickly, how automatic they can become at addition and subtraction, and if they're ready, multiplication and division, which we don't very much in 1st grade.
Well, that's all of the questions that I have. Is there anything else that you want to tell future teachers about how to be an excellent math teacher in the 1st grade?
It's just ever-changing. Just be ready to be flexible and to roll with it.
Well, it sounds like it would be awesome to be a 1st grader in this 1st grade classroom, and that the 1st graders really get exposed to a really awesome, fun foundation through all kinds of games and digital activities on the computer, and can even take it home with them. And so thank you so much for showing us how it's done.
Thank you.